to buy opportunity. The bottom line is that these two companies have a huge opportunity. There are only two companies in an entire sector. My story doesn't start with religion. My story doesn't start with the truth. My story starts with Alma de Shikra, the world of lies. God gave, God took, may His name be blessed.
So Ben Zoma first tells us, first things first, you need to understand the only things that you're allowed to be proud of is something that you were able to attain by yourself. Knowledge of Torah you can attain by yourself because it requires mesirut nefesh. It requires self-sacrifice. It requires an extraordinary amount of applicable changes. Not just intellectual changes, but applicable changes to your behavior. If you have done tshuva, but you're still yelling at your wife on a regular basis, you haven't done tshuva yet. You started, but the tshuva is not even close to being completed. If you've done tshuva in your eyes, but you're still cheap, stingy, when it comes to giving your wife money, when it comes to investing into the Torah world, whether it be to kiruv or to avrechim or something to publicize the Torah, you haven't done tshuva yet. You've done tshuva on certain things, but complete tshuva requires an overall encompassing character change. If you've done tshuva but you still look at every woman that moves, you haven't done tshuva at all. Because you don't even realize the purpose of life. If you're still looking at women like a piece of meat, you're not even close. All you are is just a golem that keeps Shabbat. The donkey also keeps Shabbat. As long as you don't put anything on his back, he just hangs out. Doesn't do anything. So Ben Zoma says, first and foremost, know that you're allowed to be proud of something you actually did. And what you could actually do in this world is very limited. Now who do we learn this from? He says we learn this from David HaMelej. David HaMelej. David HaMelej, who was completely Kodesh Kodashim. In the Guemará, to give you guys a little bit of an idea of David HaMelej, people know the famous story of him and Sheva, and a lot of people think that, oh, maybe David HaMelej sinned. Some people even teach that he sinned, but the Guemará says David HaMelej didn't sin. David HaMelej didn't sin b'chlal. If he sinned, Hashem would not make him the fourth part of the Merkava that holds the Shechina with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. In his level, it was frowned upon. In his level. Because he was so holy. But if it was us doing what he did, it'd be 100% allowed. Why? Because Sheva was not married at the time he was with her. Because one of the things that the Guemará Masejet Sanhedrin says, that the tradition was that any time somebody goes to war, the husbands give all of the wives a get. They give all of their wives a get until they come home. If they don't come home, then they're already retroactively divorced, meaning they're divorced from the time they already left. Because if a man dies in a war, chas v'shalom, you need to have witnesses that saw the body, saw that he died. If there's no body, you have a serious problem. You have to have proof that he died. So if someone didn't give his wife a get, and he went, and chas v'shalom, he died in a war, and there's no body to be found, there's no get. The wife is still not allowed to get married again. This was one of the very famous cases that Rabbi Ovadia, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, had to deal with the war. There was unfortunately a lot of deaths, and Rabbi Ovadia investigated every single one, investigated every single death to make sure that the wife is allowed to get married, to confirm that the husband was dead. He would talk to people, he would interview them, He was a private investigator for months and months and months. Why? Why is such a big deal? In Judaism, unlike in the zoo, in Judaism, we have laws of marriage. You can't just be with anyone you want. Meaning that once a man and a woman are married, they're married by a biblical law. They're married by the laws of God. It's not the laws of some court system that no one really cares about, but you have to do it for formality purposes or because you want money. When you marry for God, when you marry according to His system, you have to follow certain things. You're only allowed to be intimate at certain times of the month. You're only allowed to do certain things, and so on and so forth. One of the things that you are definitely not allowed to do is you're not allowed to marry a different woman unless your original wife accepts it. Unless your initial wife says, yes, marry another wife. That was the original biblical law. But about 1,000 years ago, Rabbeinu Gershom outlawed it. He says, even though polygamy was originally allowed in Judaism, we see certain sages had multiple wives. 1,000 years ago, we saw already, the sages already saw that we're not at the level anymore that we could actually marry multiple women for the right reason. We're only marrying multiple women for lustful reasons. And that's not the right reason. So they outlawed it. So now, if there is a marriage that has problems that leads to a divorce, and the husband doesn't want to give the wife a get, she's not allowed to marry another guy. She's not allowed to be with another guy. If she's intimate with another man, before she gets the get, the child that's born is a mamzer. And a mamzer is in essence a very different part of Judaism to such an extent that he's only allowed to marry another mamzer or a convert. He's not allowed to marry a regular Jew that's not a mamzer. Why? Because the goal is for Hashem to remove that seed, remove that sin from the world. He doesn't want him to continue. So this creates a lot of problems for generation after generation after generation. So now to say that David HaMelej sinned is to say that potentially one of the children was a mamzer. This could not be, because the Mashiach comes from David HaMelej. And the Guemará says that David HaMelej not only didn't sin, but his Sheva was not married at the time. She got the get. They would get the get before anybody went to war, because in case they die, it's already retroactively as if they were not married as of the first day. The second thing is also, in addition to that, the Guemará says, even without the get, the laws of a king are different than a citizen. The laws of a king are different than a person. Why? Because unlike the secular world where you have to elect Donald Trump and Osama or Obama and this one and that, where you have to elect them, people need to like them, or if they have to buy off the votes or cheat the system and all that stuff, there's no cheating God. The only way you become king of Israel is God needs to pick you. God needs to say, you're the king. So that's the other thing. And the laws of a king are different. There's other issues, but point being is that Guemará says he didn't sin. But still, because his level of Kedusha was so high, David HaMelej was afraid that maybe what he did is frowned upon, and therefore he fasted for 22 years. He only ate once a day at night, and he fasted for 22 years straight. Because he felt, he cried every day, he says in Tehillim, he cried every day and he filled a cup full of tears every day. For the little bit of distance that he felt from Hashem, the little bit of distance. He still had Ruach HaKodesh, but he felt a little bit of distance from Hashem. He cried about it for 22 years. That's Kodesh. So now this very same David HaMelej, in the Guemará, Masejet Shabat, page 30, asks Hashem, Hashem, when am I going to die? We ask Hashem a lot of questions. Difference is Hashem doesn't answer. To David HaMelej, he answered. He says, you're going to die on Shabbat. You're going to die on the day of the week. I can't tell you the year or the time, but you're going to die on Shabbat. You're going to die on a day of the week, you're going to die on Shabbat. So David HaMelej says, Shabbat, they're not going to be able to bury me. I don't want anyone to desecrate Shabbat. I don't want Chas v'Shalom, Shabbat, that's the deal between us, that's the covenant, that's everything. Hashem, please, bury me on Friday, bury me on Sunday, bury me on Friday, not on Shabbat. Absolutely not, Hashem says. If I bury you on Sunday, that means that your kinghood is going to go into the territory of your son Shlomo's kinghood. And there's no kinghood that can be at the same time. When yours ends, the other one begins. And yours can't have an extra day, just like his can't have one less day or one extra day. The math of Shamayim is beyond precise. It's not like us, we postpone, you get the alarm in the morning, you snooze it for a half hour, and then another 20 minutes, then another half hour, another half hour. Next thing you know, you woke up the next day. No, Hashem doesn't snooze. He doesn't snooze. It says, the kinghood of your son, specific day in Shemaim. I already wrote it when I created the world. When I created the world, I already knew he's going to be king on that day. So David HaMelej says, okay, no problem. I understand, no problem. Friday. I'll even lose a day. I'm willing to lose a day of my life. Willing to lose a day of my life, just so you don't kill me on Shabbat. That's it. I don't want anyone to violate Shabbat on me. I don't want, maybe my body's going to smell, maybe this, maybe this, all that, all 1.5 million reasons of why I don't want to die on Shabbat. Hashem, I'm willing to give a day of my life. Who here is willing to give a minute of their life for any reason? If you have a guy that has $1 trillion, $1 trillion, and you tell him, listen, you're going to die in 5 minutes. But if you want, give me the entire $1 trillion, I'll leave you $5. I'll leave you $5, I'll let you live for another day. One more day. Either you die in 5 minutes, or one more day, but you have to give me all of the money. I'll leave you $5, you can buy coffee. Is he giving you the money or not? Is he even thinking about it for a second? Not if he's a normal person. Why? Because he knows once he dies, the money's worthless. So he worked his whole life to gain this $1 trillion, but in reality, he could spend it in a moment for something he had for free. But David HaMelej is telling you Shabbat is worth more than a day of my life. He's saying to you, I'm willing to give a day in my life, just don't bury me, just don't kill me, just don't take my neshama out on Shabbat. And listen to this. Hashem Yitbarach says to him, on the day your son opens the Bet HaMikdash, he's going to bring thousands of korbanot. Thousands. Rav Mizrahi one time did the math. He said the amount of korbanot, of sacrifices, that Shlomo HaMelech did just on the grand opening of the Bet HaMikdash was somewhere in the neighborhood of $150 million. $150 million in sacrifices, valued today. Tens of thousands of cows and this and that, birds and so on. It's all an exact math in the Torah of how many birds and how many cows and how many bulls and how many all these different things. So if you do the basic math, the cow is, let's say, $10,000. A sheep is, $500. And so on and so forth. You do the math of everything. You did the math. It was like somewhere in the neighborhood of almost $150 million. Grand opening. Grand opening. It's not just the grand opening. They said that when Shlomo HaMelech was king, the gold was like sand. That's how rich he was. Gold was like sand. When they destroyed the Bet HaMikdash, it took them days to chip off all the gold from the Bet HaMikdash. But when they brought the gold to Babylon, it was so much gold, the whole gold market crashed. There was oversupply of gold. That's how rich they were. So the amount of korbanot that Shlomo HaMelech sacrificed to Hashem Yitbarach, to honor him, to sanctify his name, to make him king, and publicize his kinghood. Extraordinary. Hashem says, all of those korbanot, 1,000 korbanot, any korbanot, all of them, are not worth to me like a single day of watching you, my son David HaMelej, learn Torah, learn Chumash, learn Guemará, learn Mishnah, learn in your head. Learn Torah one day is worth to me more than all of the korbanot that your son's going to give me. All of them. And we're not talking about Shlomo HaMelech. You know, Shlomo HaMelech was given wisdom that Chazal says was one level below God. Hashem gave him a gift that he didn't give to anybody else. He gave him wisdom. If it wasn't written in the books, we wouldn't be allowed to say it. He gave him wisdom that was mamash one level below God. It's something beyond our understanding. The only thing I can tell you to understand it is you read some of the midrashim of how they describe the technology that Shlomo HaMelech had in his throne. It worked off of speech with no electricity. He had a golden dove fly in the air, no technology, hold his crown and put it on his head. I mean, things that we don't have today, not even close to having today. Only he could sit on the throne. No one else could sit on the throne. Paro tried to sit on the throne, broke his back. Things that are beyond comprehension. So this Shlomo HaMelech that was potentially going to bring the Mashiach, he tried bringing the Mashiach. That's why he married 1,000 women, not because he's sick, chas v'shalom. He's a holy person. Hashem says, all the korbanot, Shlomo HaMelech, that's going to build my Bet HaMikdash, the first Bet HaMikdash, all of the korbanot he brings is not worth to me like a single day of you learning Torah, David HaMelech. Single day. Therefore, I'm not removing a day of your life. It's too valuable to me. It's too valuable to me to lose one day of you learning my Torah. One day. Not a week, not a month, not a year, not a... One day if you learn Torah, learn a little Mishnah, a little Chumash, a little something, worth to me more than all the korbanot. That's David HaMelech's Torah. So this very same David HaMelech, Kodesh Kodashim, says, okay, I know that when I learn Torah, the Satan can't bother me. So on Shabbat, he made it a thing. What did he do? He says, from now on Shabbat, I don't take a break. I learn Torah from the beginning of Shabbat until the end of Shabbat without taking a break. No sleep, no nothing. It's not like he slept much during the week. He slept 15 minutes at a time. They say he slept like a horse. 15 minutes at a time. But he says on Shabbat, not even the 15 minutes. So the Satan, the Guemará Masejet Shabat, page 30b, says Satan came to take his neshama. He said, okay, it's time. It's Shabbat. That's the time that Hashem decreed in Shemayim. I have to take his neshama. He shows up. He's like, I can't touch him. He doesn't stop learning. He doesn't stop learning, meaning his mind doesn't leave the Torah for a moment. We're not talking about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, takes a break, eat some bamba, go to the bath. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a moment, his mind doesn't leave the Torah. A moment. I wish I could study a moment like he studied a day. He studied for just one moment. Satan says, I can't touch him. I can't touch him. Eventually, Satan had to finagle something, and he made a noise outside on a tree that was outside of David HaMelech's window. And David HaMelech jumped up, went to go see, and the Satan removed one of the stairs. So David HaMelech fell on the stairs, and the moment that he fell, as he fell, his mind lost focus. For that moment, lost focus, in that moment he took his neshama. There's no way of fooling the Satan. But Chazal ask a phenomenal question. David HaMelech, so holy, so amazing, so extraordinary. But every time somebody goes on a tree, gets up, You just said he doesn't even take a break for Bamba and Beasley. Somebody went on a tree. What? Somebody made a noise. You're going to get up every minute. Even I don't get up for every single turn. David HaMelej got up because somebody's on a tree. I believe it was the Chafetz Chaim that answered this question. It may be Ben Ish Chai, but I believe it was the Chafetz Chaim. It's one of the giants in previous generations. I confuse the names between those two all the time. Even though they're nothing alike, it's just in my mind. This names sound the same. And he says, absolutely not. You think he's going to get up for every time there's a noise? You think he's going to get up every time there's somebody sneezes? It's not David HaMelej. David HaMelej did not leave the Torah for a moment to the point where the Satan says, I can't touch him because he doesn't stop thinking about Torah. So of course such a person, such a holy person, doesn't just get up for any reason. What happened? David HaMelej knew, hey, somebody's on my tree. It's Shabbat today. You're not allowed to climb a tree on Shabbat. I have to go rebuke him. I have to go tell him, Rasha, you're not allowed to go on a tree on Shabbat. Many people watching this today just learn you're not allowed to climb a tree on Shabbat for the first time, Baruch Hashem. He already was at a point where he's not knowing that the halacha, he's thinking actively. He's applied it to his life where natural inclination was, forget that you're not allowing it. Forget it's not allowed. It's easy. Anybody, you go to yeshiva, you learn halacha, now from now on, for the rest of your life, you're going to know you're not allowed to climb a tree. It's not the big deal. Him, it became one with him. It became part of him, where he knew the fact that you're not allowing it, the fact that Hashem Yitbarach made a law, you're not allowing somebody to climb a tree, and someone dare desecrate your name and climb a tree on Shabbat, I must defend your honor. I must put a stop to it now. There's no way that I can allow someone to desecrate Hashem Yitbarach's name and go on a tree on Shabbat. That's when you become one with the Torah. That's the difference between science, math, and all this other shtuyot and applying Torah to your life. That's David HaMelej.
I've heard enough. New arrival screams, echoing through the hallway to know that this ain't good. Once they pass them through the infierno, they don't come back. It's enough to make you go crazy.
Do not think we fear you, Spirit. We know your power is born of evil. This is your last night in the land of the living. You understand me, malevolent demon?
possesses the cure you seek. Go within. Just know, once you cross that threshold, there is only one way out.
There was a rich family that lived here called the Hetheringtons, and unfortunately, their daughter passed away of a heart attack inside the house. Basically, they were so devastated that they reached out to people claiming to be psychic mediums. They actually weren't psychic mediums. They opened up a total of 11 portals inside this house and invited spirits and entities from all different kinds of dimensions.
Well, I think there are certain pieces of evidence that there is an afterlife.
Resurrection of the dead is affirmed pretty clearly in the Talmud and the Midrash.
To be honest with you, to give this lecture is a nightmare. If it was up to me, I wouldn't. There's going to be some graphic details.
This place is a maze.
That person after death went to a place called Sheol.
This is by far the largest near-death experience study that has ever been conducted.
People go to a place and they experience weird things. And sometimes they actually will see a character of some type. Well, where did that come from?
I don't know why that one chain is swinging back there.
They may describe feeling profoundly peaceful, seeing a bright, warm, welcoming light. Some people described watching doctors and nurses working on them with incredible accuracy.
Next thing I knew, I was above my body watching the operation.
How long did you feel like you were gone?
I went to a place of timelessness. And so what that means, it could have been a second, could have been 5 minutes. I don't know.
Can you imagine waking up from your sleep and not being able to move?
As I'm lying there, I realized that there's an evil presence next to me.
Do you believe that angels, demons exist?
Holy dude, get out of here! Oh my god, dude!
Strange things keep happening. Bizarre nightmares, as if I'm on fire.
Whoa, what the hell is this? Man, I've got bad chest pain.
Satan's Hollow is what it's called, the portal to hell.
Some people calling it an eye of fire, while others said it looked like the portal to hell opening up.
And the next thing I know, I was outside of my body, looking at my body.
What I'm going to do is called claromancy, the art of throwing lots or throwing bones.
2,000 years of experience, passed down, recorded, of how demons work.
God has them all on a leash, and he lets the leash go enough to let them tempt us, because that's what makes us spiritually stronger.
I'm trying to be as graphic as possible so you understand what we're talking about.
It's your ticket to reality. It's your ticket to freedom. It's your ticket to immortality.
Is there an afterlife? Is there a
This
God?
is the type of information that can keep you away from the Yetzirah.
What happens to us after we die?